Melanie Naismith here, and this is Sounds Like Us. Today's guest is a visual artist and illustrator, Hannigan Haycox. Sounds Like Us is a community artist project brought to you by Working for Victoria and Tauranga Shire Council. The aim of this series is to shine a light on creatives that have been influenced by Tauranga Shire and to share a brief snapshot of their journey within the arts. So looking through your sketchbook, you do a lot of what you've called pre-sketches before your final sketch. And some of the artists we've talked to have said how difficult it is to do that and then recreate it almost the same or better afterwards. It's like a one-take project. So how do you go about going from pre-sketch to your more finalised product?
All of the images I start aren't necessarily going to become final pieces. Like I have probably 30 times the pre-sketches that I do, probably an even greater ratio of pre-sketches and finished pieces. And sometimes certain pieces just call to me and I'll actually like separate the pre-sketch to the final piece, because a lot of the time that the pencil work, once you've inked, is really messy and you try to erase and like it blends the ink a little bit. It just
So do you put it over a light?
I generally like to get another piece of paper, generally a higher grade piece of paper, and put it on top of the other one on a light board and do my inking work on that instead of the original.
So what I would have called from my old school days of tracing something, but you're tracing your own work.
To
a degree. Yeah, that's really cool.
I really encourage that to a degree. I think not necessarily for the final piece, but freeing yourself to be able to make mistakes in the pre-sketch, and like they don't matter at all. Yeah.
So the work that you're doing, like the intricacy, you're doing comic book stories now. Just for anyone listening at home, I've looked through a book and it looks like 4 or 5 different artists' work in there. So you're multi-talented, and just before you're telling us how you actually do animation films and that, can you tell me a little bit about that as well?
I actually probably wanted to do filmmaking and animation before I got more of an interest in fine art, just because of the whole process. The scope is so great that there's something alluring about it, and the amount of work it takes, like you sort of have to put it out of your mind in regards to animation when you begin, but like there is something within looking at this gargantuan project and like pursuing the actual creation of it.
So we always liked it like a time scale type thing. So for instance, with editing audio, it might be we might record for 10 minutes, but it might take 50 minutes of editing to tighten it up. So from your one little bit of work that you do with animation, like what's the ratio of like how long it takes to get to the finished product?
A finished product, it will honestly probably take around 6 hours for 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah. More than that, I would say. For the final piece, it probably takes that for the pre-sketches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of commitment to that. And is that why we all get so bored waiting for new Pixar and movies and that sort of thing to come out, because the amount of detail? Have you got any that you've been working on that we can look at all? Or
I've got a new animation I'm working on that it's not set to be finished for quite a long time, just a passion project on the side, but I've got a couple of scenes done in pre-sketching, just pencil waiting to be inked. And that's like assembled and edited together, but I don't have access right now.
Tell me this, Hannigan, from going to when you're doing animation, how much time do you put into like making the concept before you actually start like evolving the project and starting with the sketches or anything? Or does it all sort of organically evolve together?
It sort of changes. Like you said, I like to direct my attention to very different sort of directions. And sometimes I will be really into the like conceptualizing of a scene or a world, but at other times I will literally start animating an element and I don't know what that is yet. And then I'll go back over these frames and draw on them again. Like just recently I started by drawing a sort of alien horse creature and like just had a basic run cycle with the horse, just sort of to test my ability in that regards. But then I went back and I drew a rider on, and then I drew another horse, which was meant to be the same horse, but it looked a little bit too different. So I drew another rider to be in this horse chase. Yeah. And slowly this short sort of 20 frame loop of a horse became a scene that wasn't meant to be in the movie originally.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So do you find any inspiration from around here? Like some of yourself, you're saying you're creating worlds, but what influences of Corryong and surrounds of you do you draw upon with your work?
I don't know. I've always found it interesting in Corryong how it's like sort of sitting in a pit of nature, like this little man-made town sitting in a pit of nature. And I definitely draw on that. And a lot of the sort of natural phenomena around the area, and I'm just talking about rivers and plants and things, are really striking and magnificent in areas. Like some of the waterfalls and mines and everything around the area. You can, like, I often ride my bike out there and I will look at sort of a piece of scenery and I'll draw that piece of scenery, but it won't be a direct representation of that. I'll like change the plants. I'll change
It's an interpretation.
It's an interpretation, and I like to transpose worlds, I would say. So I'll take elements from our world and move them into a sort of separate realm that's more vivid and, I don't know, potentially easier to understand than the absurdities of this world.
What would be your ideal way to get your work into public eyes?
So the way that I'm thinking isn't quite logical, but I would love for somebody who liked the work to steal it and then post it.
That's cool. I like it. It's a great. Well, it takes the responsibility off you then, don't you?
But really, I should potentially just train myself to be that person who will steal it and post it.
Training yourself to be a thief. I like it.
A thief of my own artwork. As we were talking about earlier, I trace my own work. So
yeah, well, it's copyright anyway, right?
I own all the content. So
when I was like 7, I used to draw a lot, and then there was a girl that came up through younger than me, and she started like copying my work to the point it triggered me so bad because it was so similar that I started writing copyright Mel Naismith on the back of all my sketches at like 7 and 8. Like that's how much. Are you really protective of your work? Like you don't want anyone to copy it? Is that also part of it, or you just?
I want people to be able to love creating, and if they're drawing from an element of my work, I don't mind at all. Like I work with primary students, and often like I do so much sketching with them, and kids will come up to me saying, "Oh, can you draw me a unicorn or a dragon that's also a gorilla?" And I'll do these, and the kids will then like take the drawing and copy it. And that's awesome. That's really cool to see, because like it's hard to teach yourself these things. And a lot of people think that this sort of creativity is off limits to them. It's only for these special people, but it's not. It's for anyone, you know, like, so I'm not overly protective of my own content. I'm enjoying doing it, and I don't know, other people should enjoy it too, but I should post it.
Exactly. I wish you would share some more. There's definitely 400 out there you need to see. That's enough to share one a day for over the next year.
I'm backlogged. Like I have the stuff to post. I just don't do it.
I'll have to employ a social marketer for you to do it for you. Thank you so much. That was super, super interesting.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. Today's episode of Sounds Like Us was hosted by Melanie Naismith and produced by Joshua Liston. Sounds Like Us was made possible by Working for Victoria and Tauranga Shire Council. For more information on Sounds Like Us and to hear more episodes from local creatives, go to tauranga.vic.gov.au.